This episode of Humanhood contains adult language and discussion on the sexual assault of minors. It may be triggering to some. Please take this into consideration before listening. This is Powerful Conversations Humanhood, a podcast where we confront America's adopted psychopathic nature by diving headfirst into difficult and honest conversations about the state of humanhood. I'm your host, Tamara Graham, with co-host Leisha Moody Miller. We welcome you to the conversation. This episode is sponsored by Square 5, powerful products that confronts our internal dialogue to help inspire our external dialogue for a more purposeful, driven world. Command your voice at square5.com. That's SQUARE5IVE.com. Marine veteran Rick is one of our country's bravest. As a soldier, he gave selflessly to our country. As a father and dedicated soccer coach, he pours his heart and soul into training adolescent girls into powerhouse players. In 2019, Rick's world was rocked. One of his young athletes came forward with allegations of sexual assault against one of his fellow coaches and friend. That allegation led to 2 additional allegations by girls on the team. One of those girls was Rick's own daughter. This is his story.
We were within the same club, and he was a friend and a fellow coach. You know, we were acquaintances and stuff, and then at one point we became coaches on the same team. So that's how I met him.
And you two started the organization together that you currently have.
The current organization that I run now, yes, we started it together, and it was still 1, 2, 3 months. We were 3 months into the new organization when everything blew up.
So how did the discovery of the sexual assault come out? What happened?
We had just come back from a tournament, and I was contacted by the local police department and asked if I could meet with them. They had some questions regarding the individual, and I was like, sure. And I invited the officer over, and he just started asking me questions. Did you know about this situation? Did you know about this situation? And there were things that he was doing off normal practice times with individuals where he was working with them either individually or with a group without another coach present. And the officer explained what had happened, and I was just like flabbergasted. For one, I'm a certified personal trainer, and he said, well, this incident happened in the weight facility, and he told me what he had done, and I was like, that's not the way you handle that situation. And so I was stunned, to be honest. It's just something that you don't expect. You don't ever expect it to happen. And so, I spoke to the officer, and then I immediately contacted the head of the president of our board and said, this is what's going on. And we started filling out the appropriate paperwork to let them know our governing association what's going on. And all this time, my mind is just reeling.
There was one girl that had come forward at this point.
There was one.
And how old are these girls?
They're minors. They're under the age of 18.
So one girl came forward and made the report, and that was what the police were questioning you about.
That's correct. But it took a while. I mean, the incident happened 3 months before it finally got reported. I mean, they let the athletic director of the school that it happened at, they let him know, and they just basically didn't do any. It wasn't until like 2 months later till a counselor had come forward and then finally made the report, and then that's when the police got involved. The athletic director had reviewed the video footage and stuff, and I believe they didn't feel anything was observable on the video footage that was happening. So it took a little bit for things to get working, but it finally started going on. So this was late March of 2019 when I was contacted by and had my interview with the local police department.
And this girl hadn't gone to her parents.
Oh,
She
she did.
went
She went to her parents immediately.
and her parents contacted the school?
So the parents contacted me and said this was an incident that happened in the facility, and that she wasn't comfortable being around that coach anymore. And there was only two major coaches within the club. It was me and him. And she didn't feel comfortable being around. So he wanted to get her out of the program, and he wanted to be refunded and stuff, which we fully refunded him everything. Upon talking to the father at that point, me and him talked extensively about it, and he said he didn't think there was much in it, but she just felt uncomfortable. Now, he didn't give me any of the details. So any of these details that I have now are what the police told me about. The father did not give me any of these details. I don't believe the father even had the details at that time in January. He just says she doesn't feel comfortable. If we could get our money back, that would be great. And I was like, sure, no problem. I didn't think too much about it. He just said the girl did not feel comfortable around the coach, and she wanted to leave the program. And I was like okay with that.
So what happened after it was reported? After the police questioned you on that?
So it kind of went into it was like a month. It was almost to the end of April, and we still hadn't heard anything. So he's still coaching. We know he's under investigation, but nothing, no charges had been pressed.
And he was still working with the girls.
Right. Well, but he was not, but we made sure that after the police started the investigation, we made sure that nobody was alone with anybody. Everything was observable by multiple individuals, multiple adult individuals and stuff, and there was no one-on-one training going on. Now, there's somebody who's been accused, but there's still a legal process that we have to follow. Contrary to popular belief in this country, we're still innocent before proven guilty. And I had a fellow athlete of mine. She was a teacher in a high school, and she was a health teacher, gym teacher, and she was a coach. And she was accused by a student of having a relationship, which was totally false and proven to be false. But it basically wrecked her teaching career, because now she can't go back into that school. She can't go back into that community because people don't believe those accusations.
Yeah, there's still a stigma.
Yeah. So even though the student came out and said, I lied, her teaching career was at that school was gone, and she had won a state championship with the soccer team in that state, and all of a sudden now she's gone because of that stigma. So for this month of April, we're trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, find out exactly what was going on. And it came we started into the first week of May, and we still hadn't heard anything from the law enforcement. They're pretty playing things pretty close to the hip.
And he was denying, I'm gonna assume he was denying the accusations?
Everything was deny, deny, deny. Came into the first week of May, and I sat down. It's like I believe it was right around the first. I believe, yeah, it was right around May 1st. I sat down with our board president. I said, "Listen, we haven't heard anything from law enforcement. This is still going. This is still an ongoing investigation. Let's put him on a leave of absence. Let's separate him from the girls, and we'll put him on a leave of absence, and then we'll see what happens then." And then the weekend of Mother's Day comes up. It's always that first weekend of May, around the May 9th, 10th frame. We're going on a vacation over Mother's Day weekend and stuff, and we're supposed to take my daughter with us, and everything was a go right up until Friday, and then she's like, "No, I'm gonna stay home." She had just graduated high school in 2019, so we come back. We go for the weekend. We come back, and I asked her how she was doing. She's acting real funny, and she had, up to this point, been acting, she graduated early, but she was scheduled to go to college and play a sport. She was, well recruited player. Things her senior year kind of changed. He was not only her club coach now, but now he was her high school coach. Her mentality changed. We were on a visit to a college, and she'd already previously committed to that college, and we were leaving, and she's like, "I don't want to go here now. Can I go look at somewhere else?" And we're like, "Sure." I mean, the last 8 months had been built up to this point. This is where she wanted to go. She was happy here. And then all of a sudden, one weekend in October, she's like, "I don't want to go here." She's getting a little bit rebellious, a little bit of drinking, a little bit of drugs, marijuana and stuff. A lot of absences from school. So things are here. She left the house for a while, and from November, from like Thanksgiving to Christmas, she moved out of the house. So we're trying to figure out what's going on. This is more than just teenage angst. And then in January, we have this thing that starts off with the parent. March comes along, and then the law enforcement gets involved. Now we're into May. She's supposed to go on vacation, doesn't go on vacation with us. So it's like 5 in the morning. She comes in and she gets in bed. And so I'm like, "Why, it's pretty late for you to be getting home." And we had gone down, and me and my wife had talked. We went down and we're talking to her at 5 in the morning. What's going on? And then she just kind of threw the officer's business card at me, and it was the same officer who had interviewed me, and now he was interviewing her. I had not talked to him up until he talked to her, and I didn't even know he was talking to her. And as soon she gave me his card, and I saw the name, I was just like, "What's going on?"
You knew.
I knew, I knew. As soon as she told us that morning, it's like every little block just fell into place. Everything now made sense. Every little action she did, every little cry for help, everything that had happened in the past up to this point, it was just like a Rubik's Cube just solved itself. It was just like everything just went, boom. It just solved. We're like, now I understand. Now I see where this came from, this came from, this came from. Why? Everything just kind of just started falling into place. And it's like you can see it at that point, but you don't, all the puzzles, that 10,000 piece puzzle's not put together, when you open the box. When it first starts happening, you got a puzzle piece here, and then it just hit, and everything just kind of just started solving itself. And then we just went into this big process.
I mean, the unique part is that you believed your daughter and you supported your daughter. Believe it or not, it doesn't happen all the time. So you're breaking the mold by doing those things for her. And that's so important for her to feel validated by her family. I used to work with adolescents and as a counselor, and a lot of it was experimenting with drugs, drinking too much, that kind of thing. And amazingly, none of those kids started getting high in a vacuum. They all had experiences. And a lot of them started early, at 13, 12. But it could be any number of traumatic experiences, but they all had experiences that pushed them into substance use, but oftentimes, people wanna focus on the external, the superficial, which is
Yeah.
the kids using drugs, but you as a parent is so powerful to talk about going underneath that and looking at the why is my daughter being self-destructive more and more, and that's what sometimes parents are in denial about. Okay, my kid's got a drug problem. Why? Where
Yeah.
did that start? It didn't start in a bubble usually. And so, being able to recognize that, and you're right, puzzle pieces don't fit together right away, but grief and trauma, all those are triggers for kids doing reckless things as teenagers. Good kudos for looking underneath and not just looking at the superficial.
Yeah. I just felt like I looked underneath way too late. It had to have some devastating event in order for us to, up to the point, all this behavior, like why we're asking why. I mean, this is us so out of the character, so out of the ordinary. What is going on?
Did she start opening up to you at that point, or was she still quiet about it?
No, I mean, she started opening up, but not a lot. She just let us know that there's something had happened, and it started early. It started years before that, and
So she was 18 at this point, so it started a couple of years prior
15,
to
16.
being 15, 16.
I had coached with him. I mean, the last couple of years prior to that, we had coached together, and she was on those teams. And the first thing that went into my mind was I kept her in front of the monster. And, as we got to learn more and more details of her sneaking out and her meeting him and the way he went about grooming her, then things just started.
Do you mind talking just a second about grooming and what that looked like for your daughter?
Well, it started when she was injured. And he
Mhm,
started texting her. He started showing, caring for her. Hey, I'm so sorry you're hurt. You'll come back. And, those kind of texts and stuff. And then,
mhm.
he's like, hey, you want to do some training to get you back into shape and stuff like that. So they started doing one-on-one training at the local high school. It was out in front of everybody, but it's still grooming. I started giving her
Right.
that extra attention
Exactly, exactly.
that a teenage girl, they covet that, especially from a respected coach. And so it started then, and I had no idea. My wife had no idea what was going on. We just knew that, her senior year, when he came in to start coaching her high school team, is when things really, really started to change with her.
Did this continue after the other girl came forward in January?
Now, she had broken it off before that with him, but she had kind of made an arrangement that said this kind of stuff stops with me, and if I ever hear of you doing something like this again, then I will.
Ah, okay.
She was trying to protect her teammate.
Well, I mean, she didn't know about the other girl. At this point, when she told me what was going on with her, the law enforcement guy, when he interviewed her, he was like, "Hey, I have some questions to ask you about this individual." She did not know about the other girl or the other victim until the police officer disclosed, "Hey, this happened with another individual," and he did not give her the individual's name, obviously, because that individual's a minor. But she knew that he had done this to somebody else after they had, after she had broke it off with him that day. I think probably like within 2 hours, because we just, sat there as a family when she told us. We just sat and just grieved. and cried and hugged, and what you try not to ask too many questions. You know, she's been pretty volatile up to this point. She's moved out of the house. She's doing a lot of drugs and alcohol and stuff. And now knowing what we know now, we saw that's how she was coping. That was her escape. But we didn't know any of the details behind her situation at that point. You know, she just gave us snippets. Probably, like I said, within 2 hours after her telling us that morning, I called the president of the board and I said, "He's gone. We got to get rid of him. He's gone today." And he asked me why, and I just flat out told him. I said, "My daughter was victim 2, which in a sense she was victim 1, which I don't believe she was victim 1. I believe in my heart there were many before her, or at least he had worked on his grooming techniques before that." So as a club, we got rid of him that day. He was gone. We totally 100% separated ourselves from the situation. And that night, I met with all of the players within our club, and I remember before it was right at the very beginning of practice and stuff, and I remember telling the other coaches, "This is what we're gonna do. This is what I'm gonna say." And when I remember one of the other coaches saying, "Be careful what you say to them. Could get back to him, and you could be, you know, libelous." And I was like, "Well, that's going to be the least of his problems of me libeling him." Because as a father, the number one question everybody asks me is, "Why is he still alive?" So I'm not worried about being slandering his name at this point in front of a bunch of high school kids. I just said, "Listen, he's gone. The reason is there's a personal issue and there's a safety issue with it." And then we had brought in members of the city's counselors, from within the county and stuff, county counselors and stuff, to talk to them. And so we let the counselors separate all of the girls off to the side, and they talked to them and said, "If you've witnessed any of this kind of activity from somebody, or you've been a victim of this, we wanted to make sure right away we could get in and protect the rest of the girls in the program." And so we had the county counselors come in and stuff and talk to them, and professionals who deal with this every single day. So at that point we just separated ourselves from him, and we tried to maintain status quo for them, while internally my world is just shattered at this point.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit because I think it's important for us to have a male perspective because sexual assault is so pervasive in our society. So not only as a father where your daughter experienced this, but also as a coach where at least one other girl at this point that you're aware of had experienced this at the hands of this man that you called friend.
Yeah. From a dad's point of view, I failed. I failed. I failed rule one. Failure to protect my child. I failed.
You blame yourself for
Oh
that.
yeah, still do. Still bear that weight every single day. The thought never goes away. There's not a moment that this goes away.
How do you cope with that, Rick, with carrying all that guilt?
I still coach, and I try to provide a safe environment for our athletes where they can come and learn and be in a protective environment where some monster's not going to try to do this again. So, and this is kind of stupid the way I think of it like this, but, I think of it now as more of a guardian.
I don't think that's stupid.
Well, you know, I failed the most important one. So I'm not going to fail. So some other father feels the same way as me, or some other mother. I won't fail again. I refuse to fail
Well,
again.
I want to say that It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your daughter's fault. It's not the other girl's fault. It's not any of the other parents' fault. It's the fault of the predator. It's his fault. He had everyone fooled. He was trusted by everyone, and he failed in his role, not you.
Yeah, that's what monsters do.
They do.
They're good. They're good at covering up. They're good at being a chameleon. I had shared hotel rooms with him, and I was sharing hotel rooms with him when this was going on under my nose, and I failed my daughter. I will not fail anybody else's daughter.
Have you and your daughter been able to talk about that? The the feelings you carry of failure?
Yeah, we've talked about him. I mean, it's still an ongoing situation. She's still in therapy, still moving forward day by day. I keep my feelings pretty close to the vest. I think, very few have gotten this this conversation out of me. A select few. I'll say that. A select few have gotten this conversation out of me. I don't as a failure and a father, I don't. That's a hard thing to admit that uh, you couldn't protect your baby girl.
Let's go back a little bit to after she told you and you found out and you removed him from the coaching position that he was in and with the girls, because I understand there was another girl that came forward as well.
There was one more. Yep,
What's the progression here after your daughter came forward?
he was then arrested. I think a week later, they finally had enough information to get a warrant, search through his devices and his home. They then arrested him at this point. So I was feeling really good about the decision we made to terminate him and to actually place him on a leave of absence before it ever got to the arrest phase. Even though up to the point when we released him, he hadn't been charged. I think we were still acting very aggressively and keeping a mindful watch and being very aware of the situation. Immediately after he was arrested and charged, then we again contacted our governing body and submitted the paperwork for the incident that happened and stuff to make sure that we were, following guidelines for our governing body and stuff like that. And, making sure the girls had support resources, making sure my daughter had all, I mean, once she told us, then it seemed like this enormous weight came off her back. We still had a lot to deal with going forward, but it just seemed like finally someone knows. Well, it turns out that when she was in high school and she was meeting with her counselor, her and her counselor were talking, and she had brought the subject up to her counselor, and her counselor said, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "If I told you that I was in a relationship with someone your age, do you think that that's right?" And he said no, and he did not mandatory report at that time.
Hmm.
And this would have happened when she told her counselor that, it would have prevented the other two incidents from happening.
He didn't even reach out to you as parents saying, "Hey, your daughter came to me and discussed being in a relationship with an older man."
Right. His excuse was he wasn't an employee with the school district.
What does that have to do with anything?
Does nothing. See it, hear it, report it. That's the stipulation. If you see it, if you hear about it, you report it. You always err on the side of safety.
For sure.
Exactly.
And this gentleman, this counselor, is still employed by that school district.
So there were no repercussions for him not reporting at all.
And what about the athletic director, what he saw on film? Was that truly inconclusive?
They had it as evidence, but grainy school cameras and weight rooms and stuff, it doesn't always, so I never, to be honest, I don't know what they could do about that with the other individual. So I knew the other individual. I knew that it happened to my daughter, and then I heard about the third case. Now, in the third case, I don't know the details of the third case. The district attorney never disclosed that information.
But it was a girl on the team.
Yep. It was a girl on the yep. So, at this point, now we're dealing with press because he's been arrested. It's out in the press, and there's a predator, and he was at the local high school, so now our community's under the gun, and now the school board's under the gun because he was a coach at the time with that high school. So now everybody's under the gun now. Everybody's under the microscope. Anybody he coached with in the past, any clubs that he coached with in the past, now they're under the gun.
So talk about the response from the school board.
What response? Up until the last couple of months, the school board reached out to us on 0 occasions, not one time. Nobody from the school reached out to us and said, "Hey, we're here for you. If you need anything, let us know." It was just carpet up, sweep under the carpet. You find out really, really quick in the community because nothing's going to stay a secret in a small community. Things get out. Things get out. So when they learn who one of the victims are or one of the victims is, you find out real quick who your friends are and who your friends aren't. And there was a core group of 4, maybe 5 families in the community that stood by us the entire time.
That's unreal to me.
Everybody else, all of a sudden, you hear whispers. You don't see get the highs and the hey, what's going on? You don't get the invites over to people's houses anymore. And then when you do meet them in a social situation, it's very awkward. They don't know what to say to you. They don't know how to say anything to you. And instead of saying the simplest thing, like, "Hey, I'm so sorry, I'm here for you."
Exactly.
They pretend like it didn't happen.
They're just happy that it didn't happen to their child.
But it happened in their community and it could have happened to their child.
It could have, but they just it's very stigma. I mean, it's
Mhm.
just they don't they don't want to associate with you. And then you've got the Facebook warriors and the
Of
Instagram
course.
warriors, you know. And then everybody's got their say on the situation. From my own personal vocabulary, you have the moms, the little mom groups and stuff. I call them the hens because they're always clucking about something.
Yep.
You see them on Facebook. So somebody posts up the picture of the arrest picture, and they're like, "I knew there was something shady about him from the start." And I want to fire off responses so bad. I was like, "Well, you didn't feel so shady when he asked your daughter to play for his team, or you were begging him to play on his team. You didn't feel how shady it was back then." And then so you've got all these people saying stuff, and then other people are like, "Well, don't they do background checks?" Yes. Background checks are mandatory. You have to go through background checks. But background checks aren't going to find these predators unless you're previously convicted. You're not going to find this predator. So he's going to pass a background test. He's going to go in and he's going to take the safe sport training and he's going to pass because he knows what to look for and he just answers the questions like everybody else. And at that point, you're certified to go ahead and to coach. You've passed a background check. You don't have a felony or a misdemeanor, and you've passed the safe sport training, saying, all right, you know concussion training. You know what sexual predators are supposed to look like, and you know how to spot them. Chalk one up for him knowing what he needs to look out for, what he needs not to do.
But did people come after you and your family?
No, they just cut us off.
They just completely ignored you and made you feel invisible.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you go to the local bar and stuff where all the locals are, and a lot of head turning, a lot of whispers. I have good hearing, so I hear all this stuff. And like I said, we had a core group of, 4 to 5 families that were there for us, and they're still there for us to this day. And we moved to this community to be part of the school district, and now we want to move away from this community because of the school district.
Yeah, it started with the counselor failing, then the school board failed you, then your community's failing you and these girls.
Yeah.
And instead of taking a stand that we are not going to tolerate this in our community, they completely shut down and go into denial.
Yeah, it was a fail. It was a major fail.
People do better. People do better.
Yeah, they should. You should.
Yeah.
I mean, we all sat through and watched the Larry Nasser stuff unfold.
Oh,
We
yeah.
watched we watched that unfold, and then everybody had an opinion on it. And then when it actually happens in your community, nobody says anything about it. They just want it to go away. After this happened, I was at so this happened. So this was May. We get to September, October. No, yeah, I think it was September. And I'm watching a local high school game. And I've got girls that played for me on the club side, playing on both high schools. So I'm there watching them. I'm watching the girls that play for our club in high school. And after the game, one of the girls from the visiting high school comes up to me. She's like, "Hey, we were over warming up, and there was some guy with his cell phone taking pictures of us. And we didn't know the guy, and he was just there randomly taking pictures of us." So they went and they told the athletic director from the high school, which was the same athletic director that in question. And he went over to the guy and made him delete the photos, but did nothing else. It's not going to stop him. So you stopped him from taking pictures on the thing. You have to report that.
Absolutely. Remove him and report him.
He took the minimal action required. And so I know, and the girl came up to me and told me, because we had gone through this in the spring. And we told them, this is what you look for, and this is thing, and they were uncomfortable and stuff. And it's a different person, but you should not be taking pictures of minor athletes if you're not part of the event. That this individual was there watching a youth football practice, and then all of a sudden turned around and started taking pictures. That to me is a red flag.
Yes, that's such an
Mhm.
important point to make is that as a community, we need to be vigilant with this. If we see something that is not right or isn't sitting well with us, stand up and say
Say
something.
something.
Call the damn
Mhm.
police. Get people there to remove the person and question him at every level. We are allowing this to happen as a community, not individuals. I don't believe you should be blaming yourself. Clearly your community isn't together to a point to where they're protective of these girls.
This had just happened in the community 6 months prior, so they should be at a heightened state of awareness at this point. Anything that happens should set off some sort of red flag, even if it's nothing.
Better to be safe than sorry.
And, so yes, he went over. Yes, he made the individual delete the files off his phone and stuff. But my opinion, that's not enough. If you call the police and they show up and they talk to this gentleman, they have a record of it. If it turns out to be nothing, it's nothing.
Right.
You know, it's nothing in in this gentleman's life except for a little bit of.
A lesson. Don't take pictures of minor girls.
Yeah. And it's an inconvenience for him because he had to go through the situation, but nothing came out of it. You know, but if something
Right.
does come out of it, that's another predator off the streets.
Right.
You said that they searched the predator's home. What did they find?
They found devices with child pornography on it.
Ooh.
So that's a very good point because that's often the case with child predators that they have electronic access to images,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah. So they found images, and I'm not exactly sure everything that they found. The district attorney and the prosecutor let us know that they have a very strong case now because now they have child pornography on his devices.
So he wasn't convicted of that though, was he? Of the child pornography?
He took a plea bargain.
Even with the child pornography?
See, the way they stated it was that he took the plea bargain from my daughter's and the other victim number two's statements. Victim number three's is off the table for right now, along with the child pornography. He has to fulfill his sentence, and then he has to register 10 years as a child predator. Yes, so he has to be in the, to register. If he violates within those 10 years, and then there's no statute of limitations on the child pornography. So they'll bring that back into the case against him if he violates his parole.
Okay, I am baffled right now.
Did he get jail time in this plea?
8 years.
Just 8
Yeah,
years.
I had no idea about the child pornography and that that was taken off the table. What in the hell are they doing? And I thought he had to register as a sex offender for 25 years, but it's only 10 years?
It's 10 years in Minnesota.
What? Minnesota.
If he violates, then he'll be a lifelong. He'll be on the register for lifelong.
He should already be a lifelong.
The reason he got the 8 years in the plea bargain is this kept the victims off the stand.
I understand that part, but the child pornography is something completely removed from what he did to those girls. That should not have been taken off the table.
I think it's probably still part of it and stuff. It's been a year now since we finally went over it. When they came to us and they said he's willing to accept a plea, so we're like, okay, what do we want to ask for at this point? Hindsight is always 2020 on
Sure.
this. I've seen predators get 4 years. I've seen predators get 6 years, and that's with the conviction. That is not.
And some get nothing. Lisa's actually was life in prison, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Only because he had a long record of theft.
Right.
Yeah.
Hindsight's always 2020. So we asked the prosecutor what what he thought was. And he came up with a range, and my daughter said nothing less than 8 years. He has to serve the entire sentence. There's no room for early release. He has to serve the entire 8 years. Now, at some point, he may be released I think after 6 or 7 years, he may be released to another facility. He'll do another prison. Right now, he's in a federal prison. He'll have to do a lesser security prison, more like a blue collar type facility, but he still has to do his full time in prison. And then after that, he has to register, and he'll have a whole list of things that he has to do.
I'm always amazed at, and no, I totally get what you're saying because your daughter and the other girl did not need or want to go on the stand. So I get plea bargains, but when these convicted child predators, they don't typically rehabilitate. They are lifelong predators. And we think putting them on a sex offender roll for 10 years is going to deter them, or it's no judgment of you or your daughters. It's my judgment of the system, that seems to think that people are going to just magically stop being predators.
Right, and it all depends too on the judge that you get to.
Right,
Some
right.
some are really really heavy-handed, and some are not. Hindsight being 2020, we would have gone to trial because this judge would have probably come down on him for 25 or more.
Because he also abused his
Oh
position
yeah.
in a horrible way,
Oh yeah.
and the trust of the community and the trust of
Well, yeah,
the people he coached, and he was absolutely a fraud.
oh, yeah, for sure. I mean,
Did he have a family? Was he married with children? Was he a single man?
single man.
They typically are.
We let the girls determine the direction that they wanted to take this.
That's very empowering for them.
And they need to know that, and they needed to know that. So we let the girls decide how they wanted to proceed, and then make a determination from then.
Did they get to do a victim
We did.
statement to
Yes.
him?
Yes. So the two girls went first, and then my wife went, and then I went last.
How did that feel?
I cried like a baby through the whole thing. I thought I was this big tough guy, and I bawled my way through it, you
Of
know.
course.
And
Yeah.
you're through the victim impact statements. You're supposed to be talking to the court and not addressing him directly.
Did you address them directly?
Oh, damn right I did.
Yeah. Good for you.
what what's the judge gonna do to me?
Exactly.
you know,
Right.
what's he gonna do to me? So yeah, I addressed him, and one of my remarks was, you have shown zero remorse through this entire process. And then I wasn't gonna sit through his statement. I didn't want to hear him ever speak again. I never want to hear his voice again. And I ended up staying. I just told my wife, I'm going to get up, I'm going to leave. But I ended up staying, and the judge asked him to make a statement, and his statement was like, I'm sorry for everything that has happened. I'm sorry that you feel there's been no remorse. I am truly remorseful, and I wish everybody the best. That was it.
I'm sure you feel.
Mm,
That's what that cocksucker said. Sorry
good
for the
lord.
language, but
Nope. No
No.
apology needed.
um,
I think you're
No.
doing really well in that area, actually.
yeah. So far, I'm pretty proud of myself. But yeah, and that was it. And we just kind of looked at each other, and then the judge just kind of looked at him, and then the judge just let him have it. And I wish he could have tacked more onto the sentence, but he couldn't because it was a part of the plea agreement and stuff. The judge let him know that he would have tacked on probably 20 more years to that sentence. But we are 2 full years past when they first arrested him. So he stayed out of jail all of from from May of 2019 to May of 2021 when they finally got us into court because of all the COVID protocols, and you can only sit a certain amount of people in the room and you had to wear a mask. It's so bullshit. Because you can't see emotions through a mask,
Mhm.
you know, and you're trying to talk into a microphone through the mask, through your sniffing and the drool coming out of your nose because everybody was crying about when they're reading their impact statement. It's just, and then when you walk out of there you think it's over, but it's not.
Just beginning, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you just you just cycle one thing into another. So, okay, he's going away, but now the girls have to heal. The families have to heal.
So how are the girls doing? Talk about that a little bit. Where are they now 2 years out? What did they go through, and where are they right now?
One is finishing high school. Well, two are finishing high school. Um, and they're doing well. Both, I believe, are going off to college. I'm still in contact with one of them on a pretty frequent basis. She comes in. Even though she couldn't play anymore after that, she still comes and helps and works for me and stuff and does some stuff. So she's still involved. She still likes being part of the situation. My daughter's doing good. She never went to college. She never went to school to play. She can't play anymore. She couldn't play. Part of the you know of the dealing of what we have to deal with and stuff is she could never play the game. She wanted to go to college and play, but she's doing well.
It ruined it for her.
Yeah.
It ruined her love of the game.
She's slowly kind of coming back to it. She's asked if she could help out with some stuff with the club, and I've told her, yeah, but it's on her terms. It's not on. anything. I'm like, whatever you're willing to do, whatever you want to do, it's on your terms. You do what you want to do.
That's so empowering. Good job, Dad.
Thank you. Um, and so, when she's ready to come back, if she's ready to come back, she's welcome back anytime. And she's got a really, really good job. She's got a really, really good boyfriend that supports her. She's got, good family around her that cares about her. And I don't see her enough because she lives with her boyfriend. But she's 21 now, and she's still in therapy, and she still goes to see her counselor. But there are less and less bad days every day. So, every day we don't have a bad day is a step forward. There are still days we have bad days, and we deal with them. And she knows to call and to talk to either me or my wife, and then we deal with it. And we make whatever time that she needs available to her, and we're there to support her in whatever she needs.
If every family member could do what you're doing.
Well, we try. Sometimes we don't feel it's enough, but we try.
I mean, there's so many parents that don't even believe their kid or minimize the pain. And the steps you and your wife have taken are healing steps for your daughter,
Yep.
you
And
know?
we're good friends with the other family and stuff. We try to see how do we reach out to them and see how they're doing, and making sure everything's okay there. And if not anything, we have each other to support each other, because we know what we've gone through as families and stuff. So we're there for them if they need us, and they're there for us if we need them. I'm just proud of how uh, these young women have gone through such a horrendous situation, and they're coming out, the backside of it, and they're stronger because of it. And I'm just I couldn't be more proud of all of them.
What would you say to society, given the response from your community, on what we need to do to change how we deal with sexual assault in this country as a norm? Because the norm is what the response is that you received in your community from every level.
Be good humans. you know, Try to be good humans. Nobody wants this to happen to their child. Nobody wants it to happen to. I don't want it to happen to my neighbor's child.
There's a politician here in Michigan. I'm just going to bring this up. Leisha and I are going to talk about this in episode 3 a little bit more, but there's a politician here in Michigan out of Grand Rapids who is a father of daughters who literally just said recently that if rape is inevitable, sit back, I quote unquote, sit back and enjoy it. So that's the kind of mentality that we are dealing with at a various levels within this society. And he's a father of
Of
daughters.
daughters.
It's that's
Speechless, yeah.
that's welcome
It's
to
hard to
welcome to
even
the 16th century.
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
we haven't
you
progressed
know,
very
uh,
much.
just that is the most mind-numbing thing that I've heard in a while. And I mean, and I hear a lot of mind-numbing stuff every single day. Having to sift through the American news media. There's a lot of stupid shit that people say or do in this world, and that's one of them. I would love to say it surprises me, but it doesn't.
Yeah, sadly.
uh, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, the state of as far as a community, I would expect a community to come together, a strong community to come together instead of alienate people. I would expected a school not to just want to sweep something underneath the rug, and to come up with better policies. Now, me and my wife did meet with a couple members of the school board, and not the superintendent. That guy's a piece of shit, and I'm glad he's retiring. But we met with the school board, and the president of the school board had the look on his face with some of the things that we had brought to his attention. And we met with them. I think we met with them in the fall. We met with two members of the school board in the fall, and we let them know of everything that was going on. And then Then we started asking questions. Are your coaches trained? Do they have to go through the safe sport training? Are your teachers trained? Do their teachers have to go through this training? And the answers we were getting were mind blowing. No. They have to go through. They have their week before school starts where they have to do all of their in-service stuff. But are they doing this? No. Are they doing this? No, but they should be. Yeah, that's what we're saying too.
Are they actually in the process of changing policy dealing with
Yes,
this?
yes,
Finally?
yes. Finally, we
Good.
gave them my wife is very diligent with her research and she's very passionate about this subject. And she said, listen, there are these companies that have these modules. This company has this modules, and they turn these modules on for free for school districts. The school district already does this module and this module. Why aren't you doing this one and this one and this one? And they turn that on for free so you can do it. Make your teachers responsible to go through and to take this training. Make the coaches that you hire responsible to go through and to take this training. This way, when it comes back to the school board and they say, well, what happened? Well, he signed off on this training and he still broke it. So that gives them leverage over, school board's responsible for the teachers. So it makes them responsible. Makes the teachers responsible for doing these modules. It shows the school board is being very diligent about enforcing a safe environment in the school, and that regulations are followed. So we find a lot of them are doing the bare minimum. They do the bare minimum.
They're not taking it
And
seriously.
is their reasoning, financial, or what is their reasoning for doing the bare
Well,
minimum?
it could be financial, but these modules that we found that the school already had were just simply free to them, and all they needed to do was request for them to be turned on.
They're not even doing that.
They weren't even doing that. They are now, but they weren't at that time. So after speaking with a couple members of the school board, it was a hour and a half conversation with them on a Tuesday night, and they wrote everything down. And the one individual we met with, she was a counselor in another school district but a member of the school board, and she was like, we need to do this. And she just started writing stuff down, and she's like, we're going to take this and we're going to run with it. So it was very nice, and we felt like, all right, maybe we have getting something finally accomplished with this school district. And so they're finally starting to do some things, but that counselor's still there. I mean, my wife flat out told them at that meeting, we want him fired. He needs to be
He
fired.
should be gone.
Yeah, he reported the second time, but 2 years prior he didn't. There's no excuse.
Mm-mm.
No excuse whatsoever. I mean, if he had done his job the first time, there would not be 3 victims.
I'm kind of disheartened with the fact that your community responded the way that it did.
I'm not surprised.
I'm disheartened by it. Nothing really surprises me any longer. I say that and something surprises me every day, but I'm disheartened by the fact that we are not taking this as seriously as we should, and it's an epidemic in this country. It truly is. Leisha pointed that out to me during our conversation, and then reading the statistics of sexual assault in this country is just mind blowing.
You could scour the newspapers every single day, and a new one turns up every single day.
And that's just the ones that are reported.
I was just gonna say that the reported number is astronomical, so I mean, it's insane, and 70% of sexual assault victims know their perpetrator.
Oh yeah.
So much for stranger danger, hey?
Yeah, I mean, it's what you tell your kids when you're growing up,
Right.
stranger danger, and you have monsters. Now I know what the monsters look like. Like I said, I make it a part of my mission. One of the, my wife has asked me, and other people have asked me, why am I still coaching? Why am I still doing what I'm doing? Why am I the director of a club? And I'm like, well, first of all, it's my passion. I love to do it. It's what I was born to do. It's not what I get paid to do. It's what I was born to do. But it's also now, it's like I've taken on a secondary, to provide a safe environment to show them that you can love the game and you can play the game and you can play it in a safe environment and you don't have to worry about some monster, preying on you and having an ulterior motive for why they're there. So it's something I'm passionate about, and I will continue to be passionate about it until I can't coach anymore or won't coach anymore. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. So until then, summer vacations get spaced in between tournaments, and it's a 365 thing for me. So I try to provide a fun environment. I get to know
So good you're there.
every single athlete in our program. So, while I have a team of 17 that I specifically coach, I know all 55 girls in our program. We're a female only program. Last year, I knew all 84 girls in our program. So I get to know them. I go watch their high school games, let them know that they are supported all year round, not just 6 months of the year when you happen to be playing club soccer for us. And even if you're not going to go on and play college, you need to have something that you look back on in your life and you could say, this person helped me. So
You're a good man, Rick.
shh.
We won't tell too many people.
No, I hope not.
What message would you like to leave people with?
If you're a father and this has happened to you, don't hold it in like I have. Go talk to somebody. Ignore the people that keep asking you why that motherfucker's still alive. Because that's probably the question I got the most. Why is this fucker still alive? And my response is I have a greater responsibility to my daughter, my family, the girls I coach, you know, of not doing something impulsive and possibly risk not being there for them when they need me the most. You know, the urge is there. The urge is there. Closet full of guns, and you know, the the urge is there to want to do that, to make him pay for your pain and your daughter's pain or your son's pain and your family's pain. But you have to be there for your family and the people around you. And that person will get their just due. Justice will prevail. And if you're in the community where this has happened, then a simple "How are you doing? Do you need anything?" Something as simple as that will turn somebody's world. There's nothing that you can do as a neighbor, as a friend, as somebody in the community. There's nothing you can do but ask the question. Is there something I can do? We're here for you. You know, that's all. That's all anybody could ever ask for.
And don't say stupid things just because you don't know what to say. Like, I'd kill him if it were with me. That's
Yeah,
you don't know what you will do until
you
you're
don't know.
in that
You absolutely do not do. For me, I live with knowing that I kept her in front of the monster. I live with that, and that's something that I have to deal with for the rest of my life. But that is my cross to bear, and I don't push that on anybody else. I keep that to myself. I don't talk about it a lot. I don't talk about it openly. Like probably one of the few times, like I said, I've talked about this openly is, it's something that I deal with. Should I be in therapy over it? Oh, probably, yeah. Am I going to go to therapy? No, probably not. But every day that I get out and coach, and every day that I get to see them smiling and having fun, that's therapy
I
for
was
me.
gonna say that's your therapy right there.
Yeah, I mean, I come home every night from practice. My wife asks me, "How's practice?" Best part of the day, So I mean, that's how I deal every single day. I'm passionate about what I do, and I've learned that, like this, I'm not afraid to have difficult conversations with people because I've had to have them over the past couple years. I've learned to have difficult conversations. You can have a difficult conversation and still remain friends.
Oh,
You
sure.
just got to be willing to go into deep waters with somebody and not get mad about it. I mean, or you can get mad about it, but not to, you don't end friendships and you don't. end relationships because somebody had a difficult conversation with you. You'll find out what kind of person you are if you're not willing to have a difficult conversation.
Well, as I say, the trash removes itself in those situations.
Well, I don't have room in my life for stupid, so
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
so if you're gonna be like that, you're gonna act like that, then I don't have time for that in my life, and I don't entertain it. And you either like me for me or you don't like me at all. I mean, that's the way I look at it. So I am who I am. I'm pretty open. I'm military guy, so I'll say pretty much how I feel about you. If you ask me, I'll tell you how I feel. And like I said, I'm just who I am.
That's cool.
I really appreciate you being willing to do this and reaching out to me to be a part of this. I think this is a message that's super important to get out there, especially from a father and a male perspective, because I just feel through reading statistics and what's in the news that the male perspective on sexual assault is so skewed for whatever reason it may be. And the blame is put on the victim far more than it's put on the perpetrator. And we just don't take it seriously enough as society. We're slapping it on the hand and we're giving these minor a sentencing. And we have judges out there who flat out say to people, I don't want this to ruin your life when you assaulted somebody and ruined hers, or at least damaged it for several years to come.
Yeah, you see a lot of when they show it on the news or in the papers or when they report it and stuff. You hear about the victim, you hear about the abuser, and you usually only get the the father who is just going ballistic.
Right. It's true.
He's just going ballistic, justifiably going ballistic. But they don't get to the point where what happens in that 30-second clip that the news took of him yelling at the abuser in court or yelling at somebody and stuff. They don't get the fact, or they don't get the picture that he's just devastated.
Right.
We built this big stigma around the male figure being the strong one. You know, you have to be there, and when you not, and you can't protect them.
Well, you're a human being who has emotions also.
Yeah, but the people don't see that, and it just behind the doors. It just rocks you to your core. It shatters your
I
foundation.
think it needs to be brought out more.
Yeah, and they don't show that. So like I said, when I was on the stand giving my victim impact statement, if you listen to the recording, you probably can't hear anything that I said because I was just a blubbery mess. Granted, I'm a little more emotional. I'm a very emotional person, and I react through my emotions and stuff. Even though this is several years after we've gone through it, it doesn't take much to pull that scab off. And like I said, this is something I think about every day. I mean, every father that's out there that has gone through this, it's something they think about every day. It's never going away. It could be 30 years after an incident, and it's still there, never going away.
Have you had any close male friends? That you said you had like 5 families who supported you. Have you had any close male friends where you've actually been able to have an open, vulnerable conversation with about this? With the other victim's father, for example, or any of these other families?
Well, I have a friend that I talked to about it, but I kind of vented emotionally. But still, his response is like, "I'd have killed the motherfucker." So, I mean, he listened, but his response was, "I'd still kill the motherfucker."
Which is almost like throwing an arrow at you, you know?
It's a standard dad response.
Yeah.
He's a dad. He's got a daughter too. It's a standard dad response. I think it's what people want to see publicly facing is that response. What would you do? Kill the motherfucker.
Yeah, that is you're right, it is the first thing that comes out of people's mouths.
That's the first thing that wants you want to go through your mind, and it's the first thing you read as soon as it hits the social areas and stuff. It hits the news, so people post it on Facebook, and their first thing they say is "Oh, I knew he was shady from day one. Oh, I would have killed the motherfucker." And, why didn't they do this? Why didn't you do that? Well, yeah, there's a lot of areas that if I look back now, they were red flags. When you're actually going through them, they're not red flags at the time.
Right.
Now they're red flags because
Right.
we're 5 years smarter now than we were then. So people can say all they want. Like I said, you will learn if you're a parent of a victim. You will learn who your friends are and who your friends are not. And you will see if your community supports you or your school district supports you or whoever is around you. You will see who supports you and who does not. You just you have that male shield that you throw up that you have to maintain that.
I see it all the time. People don't know what to say, so or they're so uncomfortable, so they say the wrong thing and they do the wrong thing. And it's all because of their own discomfort with facing this issue.
Right.
And if they would just get real with themselves, they would know nobody knows what to do. And certainly it's very hard to see it coming, but yet they say those things because they're so uncomfortable.
Right. So they'll, like you said, they won't say anything or they'll say something stupid or they'll distance themselves. But even though there's probably nothing they can do to help the situation or make the situation get better, just knowing that they put themselves out there.
Empathy.
Yeah, really sorry that something happened. Is there anything we can do? My answer would be thank you so much, but there's really not much you can do. Thank you very much. That'd be my response. And that has been my response to those that have reached out. You have the people who talk and they get separated from the pack and they don't come back into the fold. Like I said, I don't have time for stupid or ignorant. So
Yeah, that's good, but I'm glad you have outlets. That's real important.
my daughter knows she has me anytime she wants me,
And
and
that's important. That is huge for her, I'm sure.
so we talk and we text and we send funny memes to each other, and this is how we associate with each other.
That's so good.
So dads, you don't have to put on a brave face because I understand what you're going through. We understand what you're going through.
And your feelings are definitely not isolated. A lot of people go through that guilt and
Oh
that.
yeah, every parent goes through this if it's happened to your child. I'm not unique. I'm not any different than any other dad or any other mom or family member and stuff. It ripples through the entire family.
Well, I think you're very strong and you're very brave, and so is your daughter and the girls involved in this for standing up to this. And I wish communities would do more. I really do. And we need to change that in the society. How? I don't know. But I think having conversations like this and showing the vulnerable side of it, that what families go through, is an important step to make that happen.
Yeah, there's not enough out there about what the families go through or what the families need.
No,
So,
Well, people are, and like Leisha said, and like you guys experienced with the girls, not being ready to talk about it. I mean, Leisha, what it took you how many years to really be ready to talk about yours?
about 7.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's a traumatic experience and everybody's going to process it differently. And it's important to recognize that and not blame them for that. Let them take the time that they need. But when you're ready to start talking about it, let's start talking about it and let's ask hard questions and let's have real deep conversations about it and what we can do as society to change the pervasiveness of this. I think one of the things we do need to change is sentencing, because if there are bigger consequences for people doing these crimes, it may be they may be less willing to do it. I don't know. That may not be, because a lot of this is, especially with sexual assault, it's behind closed doors. It's on computers. I don't know if that's the first step, but
they don't think about sentencing while they're doing this. They don't. This is the last thing from their mind. Whatever their goal is, whatever their motivation is to do what they do.
they shouldn't be in society. They shouldn't be out in society roaming around to do this.
I'm convinced serial predators can't be rehabilitated at all.
This man's gonna get out of prison and he's gonna have a sexual what, sexual predator.
Compulsion.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
he's gonna go out and do this again. It's inevitable.
Or he'll collect porn or do something that maybe he thinks he could get away with a little easier, but he'll do something.
They're gonna have they'll be monitoring him. He's still gonna have hidden devices somewhere. He's still gonna,
Mhm.
it's so easy to get these days and so easy to hide. Yeah, like you said, I don't believe these serial abusers will ever be rehabilitated and all of a sudden see the errors of their way.
No.
It's something that's ingrained to their DNA, and it's not. And I dare you to change my
And look at
mind.
what the Catholic Church did. They just moved them around.
Right.
They would just move the priest to another diocese, and, they never stopped when they got moved. They just found new victims or new ways to express their compulsion. But we have this keep a lid on it mentality in schools and churches, and it helps no one to keep a lid on it when you know that a predator is in your midst. It needs to be shouted from the rooftop,
Oh yeah,
on a
when
billboard. So and so is the predator, everybody just FYI. So
well, look what happened as soon as they started shouting it from the rooftops. Weinstein gets put away. Look at how many people came forward with Weinstein. Look how many people came forward with Nasser. Look how many
Right.
people came forward on Epstein Island and all of those major ones. But those are the major ones. The ones that get overlooked are the youth, the trusted
Right.
individuals that they are in contact with, the coaches, the counselors that have this
the priest,
disease.
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah, the priest, you know,
the youth pastor.
yeah, the trusted individuals.
Mhm.
And then when they find out, when people find out or communities find out that this trusted individual was in your community, then you see exactly how your community reacts. They shut down and shut you out. I'm not going to say every community is like that. I'm sure there are communities out there that are the exact opposite of what we went through.
Truth tellers are often shut out, though, because people are uncomfortable by truth.
And if somebody watches this and they come up to me and they tell me that I'm wrong, and then I'm gonna call them a fucking liar to their face, and I'm gonna be like, "You were that person that went away.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
were that person that all of a sudden, didn't say anything or was whispering mom behind my back."
I think
As a hard conver
Yeah, I think if there's one thing that comes out of this is that do people do better. If you see this, step up. Do not walk away. Do not shut down from it. Do not look the other direction. Support the people going through it. Believe them. Believe people and be there for them as a community to ensure that the message gets out there to predators. We are not going to tolerate this. We are not going to give you the exposure for this and treat the victims like they're the ones that have the problem and they're the ones to blame. They're the ones that have to get over it. Stand up as a community against these people.
Now, do people get wrongfully accused?
Sure,
Absolutely.
sure. That
Absolutely.
usually comes out really quickly, though.
Right, but let the system prove that.
Right.
Let it run through the system. Don't just sweep it underneath the rug, or don't report something because he was not part of our school
Yeah,
district.
that's infuriating.
You know,
And false accusations are a drop in the bucket to the number of people who never get caught and
right,
never answer for their crimes. I
right.
would rather have more small percentages of accusations if that brought up more actual predators that needed to be caught. It's like we all have this knee jerk reaction to false accusations, like they're just everywhere. And you could probably name them on one hand.
Right.
Right, right.
I mean, it's the price we pay to ensure safety for our children. And we as adults should be willing to pay that price. Maybe one day I'm accused and I will have to answer to authorities, but I would rather 10,000 accusations happen than 10,000 predators let go.
Yeah, absolutely.
We still have so far to
We
go. My
do. We
God.
really do.
We're just sick how
Yeah.
broken this is.
Yeah. It's definitely broken.
I knew it was broken too with Larry Nassar because of all the cover up, and it was just, ugh.
That's a whole there's a series of rabbit holes there. There's just not one rabbit hole to go down there. There's a series of rabbit holes. That
Or the guy from Penn State, what was his name?
Sandusky.
Sandusky. Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm just honored to meet you, Rick, and
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you too.
thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
If you are a victim of sexual assault, please know that you are not alone and it is not your fault. You are strong and you can recover from this. In our show notes for this episode, we provide information on resources along with links and phone numbers for support. You can also reach out to us directly at pcspodcast.com and click on our contact tab, or email us directly at info@pcspodcast.com, and we will help direct you to support. In episode 3, Leisha and I dive further into the conversation discussing the trauma of sexual assault, resources for support, and the ongoing work of the Joyful Heart Foundation and #EndTheBacklog movement of untested rape kits and justice for sexual assault victims. Thank you for listening to this episode of Humanhood. We are happy you are here. For a breakdown of this episode, please visit pcspodcast.com/humanhood for our show notes and for more information on how you can get involved. If you enjoyed this podcast, please help us grow by giving us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and supporting us through Patreon by becoming a founding member. As a founding patron, you receive a special subscription rate that will lock in for the life of your subscription. We provide our patrons with a plethora of awesome behind-the-scenes perks and special merchandise, along with access to our Patreon-exclusive podcasts, Drunk Politics and WTF. Become a founding member today at patreon.com/powerfulpodcasts or find the link in our show notes. This podcast is brought to you by Powerful Podcasts and is written, produced, and hosted by me, Tamara Graham, with co-host Leisha Moody Miller. You can find us at pcspodcast.com or wherever you find your podcasts. For a full list, please refer to our website. Follow us on social media at Powerful Podcasts and on Twitter at Powerful Pods. Be sure to join us next week for another powerful episode of Humanhood.